Brazil. The former pilot and parachutist retired in 1992, but since then has struggled with illness.
Captain Hollanda had been suffering a chronic depressive disorder since the early 1990s. In my personal view, this depressive process originated from something that he had experienced a long time ago in the Amazon.
Later that night, his daughter climbs the steps to her father's room. She finds a shocking scene. Her father is dead. He appears to have strangled himself. Was this a suicide brought on by mental illness, or by something more sinister? Just 2 months earlier, the captain had given this exclusive interview to UFO researchers A.J. Gevaerd and Marco Petit. Both men study and document UFO incidents.
This object went to Colares, then kept going as if it covered the Amazon in strips. There was an intelligence doing this. 4 months into the operation, they ordered us to stop.
Some UFO experts maintain that Captain Hollanda did not kill himself, but was murdered because he'd said too much about a series of frightening UFO encounters, some allegedly fatal, which took place in the Amazon jungle 20 years earlier.
He gave eyewitness testimony based on his work as a military man who commanded one of the most serious operations in the world of ufology. There is something very strange that the Air Force doesn't want revealed.
I don't believe it was suicide. Hollanda's death is connected to something beyond the normal.
He left a very clear message that we are being visited.
Captain Hollanda's UFO sightings began here, on the island of Colares, at the mouth of the Amazon River in Brazil. Though it is only a 2-hour drive from the bustling city of Belém, it is a world away in terms of culture and technology.
They are poor people. They are fishermen and farmers, people who lead a very peaceful life.
Like most people in Brazil, the 2,000 residents of Colares are predominantly Roman Catholic. But the island's remoteness has given rise to many local superstitions.
They believe the island is mysterious, that a lot of phenomena occur there. The people of Colares have their legends and their traditions.
78-year-old Emilio Campos Oliveira is a longtime resident of the island. Nearly 30 years ago, he was part of an extraordinary and disturbing series of events that transformed life on Colares forever.
I
could feel it once the light went away. I felt the burning. It was here. The mark was kind of a circle. It was red in the middle of a black spot.
It began on a warm night in October 1977. Around 11 p.m., Oliveira is ready for bed. His wife kisses him goodnight as he settles into a hammock in the living room, where he likes to sleep. Suddenly, a beam of light floods the room. It appears to be coming from above. It is so powerful that it penetrates the ceramic tiles of his roof.
A bright light appeared before my eyes, coming down from the ceiling on top of me. It attacked my thigh. I felt a burning sensation. The light was quite bright. Quite bright.
As quickly as it came, the light disappears. Unable to find an explanation for what has just happened, he tries to go back to sleep. Days later, at about 8 p.m., 24-year-old Orivaldo Malaquias Pinheiro, a local fisherman, sets out with a friend for some night fishing.
I was on the beach and we were throwing out the net, but the net wasn't catching anything. So we pulled it back in and left to see if we could find another position, to see where we could catch some fish.
The two fishermen wait patiently for their catch. Suddenly, Pinheiro's friend notices a low-flying, bright light in the sky.
There was no noise, no smell. He looked out to the sea, and this light was coming from the direction of the sea toward us. We got scared and took off running.
The two men race towards town. Panic-stricken, they tell other residents about what they've just seen. They learn that they are not the only ones to experience these mysterious sightings. In fact, dozens of people say that over the past few weeks, they've been chased, as if they're being hunted down and attacked by the lights. 25-year-old dentist Lucia Helena Marquez says she too had a strange encounter on a nearby beach.
Aí estávamos ali no mercado.
We were at the market and there was a commotion.
Houve alvoroço, né, que tava.
This object appeared and everyone ran to the seashore.
Objeto não identificado.
We saw two lights hovering in the air.
Lá para a beira-mar.
One light would be on and the other would be off.
Pelo ar.
They kept doing it like a signal.
A outra apagava e ficava assim, tipo sinal.
The colors that we saw most were red. Red was the brightest color, then green, red, green, and yellow in the back.
Depois o verde, era vermelho.
Then it just disappeared.
Depois sumiu.
As residents of Colares struggle to make sense of these strange occurrences, 2 hours away in Belém, 25-year-old reporter Carlos Mendez gets a call in his office.
I first heard pieces of information through telephone calls from people linked to the town. They were saying the newspaper should go there because these lights were appearing and the people were becoming very afraid.
Mendez, who works for the newspaper O Estado do Pará, calls his photographer. The two men leave for Colares that night. When they arrive, the men are swarmed by residents, wanting to tell their stories about being attacked by strange beams of light. Some even say they have been wounded by the lights.
One woman, she was in her house at night when suddenly she saw the brightness. And she noticed that the light was shining on her house. It pierced the roof and lit up the bedroom.
The woman says her legs and arms were paralyzed. And the next day, she noticed something strange on her chest.
On her breast, there were marks, as if someone had perforated her breast a number of times in the same place with a pin.
Other alleged victims tell similar stories. They also say that while they were immobilized by the light, they felt as if it were somehow sucking their blood. Reporter Carlos Mendez never sees the lights for himself. He doesn't know what to make of the bizarre stories, but he can see that the terror is real.
I noticed a lot of fear in those humble people. It was a sign that something very bad was happening.
Over the next 2 months, the sightings increase and the island erupts in panic. Over 80 people report being targeted by intense beams of light.
The stories were always the same. The lights came down from space, sucked on those people, paralyzed these people, and affected these people. They couldn't understand why they were being attacked, but they said they were attacked violently. So I was trying to understand why it was happening and if the lights were really appearing to these people.
The locals become so alarmed that many of the women and children leave town. Some men light bonfires along the beach and stand guard at night. Others stay locked in their homes for fear of being targeted.
I saw the people's fear. I saw the feeling of terror these people had, and I saw the plea for help that the people were making.
It seems as if someone or something is attacking the people of Colares. No one knows why. September 1977. Panic has overtaken the remote Brazilian island of Colares, 68 miles north of Belém. Dozens of residents say they've been attacked by strange beams of light, emitted by unidentified objects in the sky. At that time, Dr. Valaide Carvalho is the 24-year-old director of the local healthcare unit. She has been on the island for only 6 months. Over the last few days, the young doctor has seen an increase in her patient load, many of whom claim they have been injured by these unexplained lights.
People kept showing up, and I was getting irritated because I thought it was getting to be too much. It was mass hallucination, it was mass delirium. I had more and more cases. I remained skeptical, thinking they had all gone crazy for some reason.
The symptoms the doctor sees are all the same. The patients display what appear to be radiation burns, as well as unusual puncture marks. Physician Daniel Rabiso studied the events on Colares.
The marks were generally at the thorax level, shoulders, chest, cases on the thigh, the leg, and generally the burn was small. It wasn't very extensive, a maximum of 15 centimeters in diameter. Dr. Valaide observed small papillas as if there were 2 small injections in the location of the wound.
Victims report that these burns were caused when the light made contact with their skin. But the wounds are unlike any burns the young doctor has treated before.
The marks caused by the burns turned blue for 10 days or so. However, many times it had only been 10 minutes since they were made.
And the doctor's most disturbing cases are yet to come. In September, she examines a woman whom relatives claim has been attacked inside her home by a bright light.
She arrived being carried by family members. She was already in a state of spasms as if she was having cardiac arrest. Her mouth was shut tight, her eyes were closed, she had no reflexes at all.
Carvalho tries to stabilize the woman's condition, but there's no sign of improvement.
There was nothing more we could do. The only thing left was to put her in a car, since we didn't have an ambulance, and drive her to Belém.
Carvalho waits for an update on the woman's condition. 5 days later, another serious case is brought to her clinic. A woman whom witnesses say was hit by a strong beam of light while standing in her yard.
She arrived in a squad car in such a profound state of rigidity that they couldn't fold her into the car. And she came lying on the back seat with her legs sticking out because they couldn't bend them in.
Carvalho sends this patient to the city as well. Soon, the doctor receives word from the regional hospital in Belém about her patients. They are both dead.
I had requested that the cause of death be determined because it was of interest to the population. And the cause of death was listed as unknown.
Carvalho still does not believe that beams of light attacked her patients, but she suspects that the growing hysteria over the sightings may have led to a heart attack or stroke. Hoping to put an end to the panic, Carvalho and other town officials begged the mayor for help. In September, the mayor contacts the Regional Air Command of the Brazilian Air Force, or COMAR. It is at this point that COMAR assigns Captain Yorange Holanda to lead a team of Air Force officers in an investigation of the strange events on the island. According to reporter Carlos Mendez, who is researching the events on Colares, Holanda's team may have been dispatched because the area has been the site of repeated guerrilla attacks by communist rebels. The reporter believes the Air Force assumes the lights are being created by weapons fire in the jungle, and Holanda's job is to track down the rebels.
I believe that the objective of the military in Colares was first of all to investigate if there was any subversive activity from communist agents.
But if that's the case, the project is given a curious name. Captain Holanda's mission is known as Operation Saucer. He assembles his team quickly. 37-year-old civilian Pinon Frias is brought on as a pilot.
There was suspicion that it was a type of device that was violating Brazilian airspace. We didn't know what country it was from, but something was violating airspace. The Air Force has the obligation to verify what it's about.
At the beginning of September, Holanda's team of officers, engineers, and scientists arrives on Colares. The men erect shelters and set up telescopes and cameras on nearby beaches. Their activities are carried out in full view of the island's residents, in the hope of calming the fear that has gripped the island.
When we arrived in Colares, there was total panic in the town. The population wasn't sleeping because of the fear. Despite attempts to calm them down, we couldn't do it, especially the older residents, some of whom had been affected by the lights.
Once on the island, the Operation Saucer team tries to gather as much information as possible. Captain Holanda immediately goes to see Dr. Carvalho.
The first thing proposed to me at 6 o'clock in the morning when I received the Air Force entourage was that I tell the community from that point on that all these cases of affected people were mass hysteria.
For the doctor, the meeting is an early sign that the Air Force is not interested in seeking the truth, but in covering it up instead. Carvalho refuses to go along with their plan.
I couldn't trick a community that expected so much from me, especially support and credibility.
Holanda also meets with local eyewitnesses, including then 48-year-old Emilio Campos Oliveira, a resident who says he's been burned on his thigh by the light.
They came to see me. They photographed where I was hit. The only ones who saw my mark were people from the Air Force. They saw the mark.
The sightings continue throughout the next 4 months. Captain Holanda's team is busy collecting information from witnesses and town officials. Their surveillance equipment is in use 24 hours a day. But the Air Force does not release their findings to the public. Those who think that Operation Saucer will help determine the truth are disappointed. Instead, some believe a cover-up has already begun. By October 1977, the strange occurrences on the island of Colares have caused the Brazilian Air Force to investigate. Residents claim that UFOs have attacked them with powerful beams of light. Some people develop strange burn marks on their skin after the encounters. Two women have even died. The Air Force's project Operation Saucer, under the leadership of Captain Uranga Holanda, is gathering information on the mysterious sightings.
The military did not take weapons to Colares. Their weapons were cameras. Lots of cameras.
Over a 4-month period, Holanda and his team take photos and make sketches. These are their actual drawings. They also conduct interviews with the residents, including Dr. Valaide Carvalho. She has treated dozens of patients who claim they have been attacked. Initially, the doctor is skeptical about their stories, but soon she experiences a UFO sighting herself. It is around 6 o'clock. Carvalho is returning home from her shift at the local healthcare unit and sees a woman faint.
I looked up, and that which I had denied, that I didn't believe in, that I thought was the product of delirium, craziness, made-up stories, people wanting attention, I saw the object at the height of approximately a 10-story building.
The object is cylindrical. Carvalho suddenly feels paralyzed by what she is seeing.
It didn't have the color of stainless steel, or the color of silver, or the color of anything else. It had its own color, and it moved in elliptical movements. It was directly over my head, making elliptical movements and coming back again.
According to statements from witnesses, at this exact time, the Air Force picks up a signal on the radar his men have set up on a nearby beach. As the team scrambles to focus their telescopes and cameras, the object disappears.
It turned toward the bay and headed out to sea.
Holanda and his team continue their surveillance on Colares. They collect over 500 photographs and 15 hours of film, showing what appear to them to be bright lights high in the sky. The reports from the investigation are sent back to Comar headquarters in the nation's capital of Brasilia.
The Air Force really delved into the investigation. They had to give some kind of an answer to the people that were having these encounters. And I'm certain that it came as a surprise that the military men from the Air Force themselves began having their own encounters, their own experiences.
In December 1977, ufologists A.J. Gevaerd and Marco Petit are hard at work writing for the Brazilian publication UFO magazine when they hear about the stories from Colares.
The military operation is the first military operation that we know of in Brazil and probably in the world, entirely dedicated to try to understand what was going on here involving the UFO phenomena. Over 3,000 people were interviewed by this military in a 4-month period.
That same month, Captain Hollanda is ordered to surrender all materials and return to Comar. The photographs, films, and sketches they collected are kept classified.
He was given the order to shut down the operations officer immediately. He was a military, he didn't ask much question.
One of the things that most shocked me and the other colleagues was the fact that at the end of December in that year of 1977, when the encounters were becoming increasingly fruitful, the order came, and to this day no civilians know who it came from, saying that the operation was terminated.
Over the next few months, reports of strange sightings and bizarre attacks subside. In time, the stories about mysterious lights in the sky drift into local legend. For the next 30 years, Operation Saucer is kept under wraps, but Captain Hollanda does not remain silent forever. In 1997, he decides to meet with A.J. Gevaerd and Marco Petit in a videotape meeting just outside Rio de Janeiro. In this rarely seen video, the captain gives his chilling account of what happened on the island.
The ship gave an explosion like thunder. A very strong explosion and brightness. It took off at incredible speed toward the atmosphere. And disappeared among the stars.
In 1977, the Brazilian Air Force's UFO investigation, called Operation Saucer, generates a massive report which sits in classified government archives for over 20 years. The files contain roughly 500 photographs and 3,000 interviews with witnesses who claim that they were attacked by bright lights in the sky over the Amazonian island of Colares. It is not until 1997 that the veil of secrecy begins to lift. June 1997. UFologist and editor of the Brazilian publication UFO magazine, A.J. Gevaerd, is at work when he receives a phone call. On the other end of the line is Captain Yorange Hollanda. Hollanda was in charge of the Air Force team sent to Colares back in 1977.
And he called me and said, I always admire what you've done. I think you weren't able to talk because, you know, I was in the military, but right now I'm retired. And if you want to talk to me, please come to my place.
Soon, Gevaerd and his co-editor Marco Petit head to see Hollanda. For 2 days, the three men gather at the captain's house in Cabo Frio, just outside Rio de Janeiro. They videotape the entire meeting.
He was a man with a very lucid memory. Very, very good memory, who could report in details things that happened 20-some years before with such a precision that impressed us.
The most important part, without a doubt, is his description of the encounters he had with these ships. He came face to face with ships that sometimes were 100 meters in diameter, of varied shapes, and that really placed him in a situation that few people, in global terms, had the opportunity to witness.
We could hear a sound like an air conditioner. That kind of dull sound. And deep inside the sound, there was a clicking noise, like the sound of a ratchet. This noise coming from the ship was very clear.
Hollanda describes in detail 3 different encounters with alien spaceships. These are the drawings he made to depict his first encounter. He told the researchers that his second encounter occurred one evening while he and his team were standing on the beach.
The light came close to us and stopped high. It was high, quite high up there. But it stopped and actually made a circle around us. It made a circle and then took off toward the east.
The captain then describes his last and most shocking encounter. He tells the ufologists that he was visited by a humanoid from one of the ships while he was in bed.
I was lying on my side. Suddenly, a very powerful flash lit up the room. I was startled. I heard a strange thing, and immediately afterward, there was a being behind me, hugging me. It was a rather strange situation.
The captain then goes on to describe the alien.
It was 1.5 meters tall, more or less, dressed in a suit resembling an astronaut or a diving suit. It was kind of soft. It wasn't very tight. I didn't see the face. It had a mask that was lead gray, and I couldn't tell the details of the face. I didn't see any eyes. I didn't see any shape.
Hollanda also tells the researchers that the alien spoke to him.
I was very frightened. And that thing behind me, hugging me, squeezing me. And it spoke into my ear in Portuguese, with a sound. It seems like a computer, that metallic voice. It spoke into my ear. Take it easy. We're not going to do you any harm.
Hollanda says that the alien then disappeared.
He could tell us with such a precision what happened. And you can see that there was a great variety of objects operating in this area. Some objects, strangely, they would come from the jungle. They would come from between the trees. Some other would come from the sky. And a few others would come from the water. That's very amazing.
The captain makes another startling claim. He shows the ufologists his arm. There appears to be an object implanted under the skin. He says that the alien put it there during his last encounter.
Flexible, plastic. Here, you press and it shows up there. This point here.
Did you ever get it x-rayed?
Yes, but it didn't show anything.
In July 1997, Hollanda's story is published in Gevaerd and Petit's UFO magazine. But those hoping that his startling disclosure will lead to a second investigation are disappointed. Instead, a new chapter of the Colares mystery begins. On October 2nd, 1997, Captain Hollanda dies. The official cause of death is asphyxia, but it is not clear if the death was accidental, suicide, or perhaps murder. According to colleagues, Hollanda did have a history of mental illness and had attempted to kill himself before. Yet others who knew the captain say it could not have been suicide. His co-pilot, Pinon Frias, suspects that he may have been murdered.
Hollanda would never take his own life. I can't accuse anyone of anything either. But he would never tie a rope around his own neck and lie down hanging himself.
But A.J. Gevaerd disagrees with Frias.
He took his own life. That was his decision. He was depressed. But what I know is that that man left us a very important message, is that we are being visited. And the Brazilian Air Force, which means the Brazilian government, knows about it.
In March 2004, A.J. Javier and Marco Petit decide to take action. 6 years after the captain's death, they demand access to the classified Colares report under a campaign they created called Freedom of UFO Information Now.
This kind of information that we are talking now, I believe as a UFO researcher and as a citizen of Brazil, that it should not be restricted to the military files, to the military headquarters. It must be known by all society.
In the Air Force archive, Javier and Petit will find these sketches and photos made by Holanda and his team. Records that have been hidden for over 30 years. On May 20th, 2005, Brazilian ufologists A.J. Javier and Marco Petit and a handful of other UFO researchers arrive at Brazilian Air Force headquarters to examine classified documents they have pressured the government to reveal. These files contain information about the 1977 military investigation called Operation Saucer. Javier and Petit believe the records contain data about UFO activity on the island of Colares.
The brigadier, he said, I was being given an order from the commander of the Brazilian Air Force to open to you all files. You can watch everything that you please.
But in fact, the two claim they are not permitted to see all the documents about the incidents. These are some of the photos they examined. Out of more than 2,000 pages of text, 500 photographs, and over 15 hours of film, they are only permitted to view 110 photos and 200 documents. The materials are both illuminating and puzzling. They reveal that the Brazilian government devoted a great deal of time investigating the sightings. They document numerous statements given by eyewitnesses. The files contain more details than the ufologists had ever imagined. Javier and Petit are not permitted to view the films contained in the files, but they do uncover photographs taken by Captain Holanda, the head of Operation Saucer. The grainy black and white photos show bright lights high in the night sky.
In ufology, a picture is not worth 1,000 words. You have to analyze the report of the people who took the picture.
Captain Holanda's voluminous report contains sketches and descriptions of his alleged encounters with alien aircraft.
We had access to several documents that describe the encounters in detail, including reconstructions in the form of drawings, not only of the cases that involved the military, but also the cases that involved the residents.
The documents describe several different encounters with the mysterious lights.
The UFOs could come closer to people, and sometimes they could get small, shrink it, or enlarge it, get lighter, like more illuminated.
The report concludes by describing the burn and puncture marks supposedly caused by the lights, but offers no proof that they are connected. The report leaves this and many other questions unanswered. It does not attempt to determine the source of the lights, or try to debunk the speculation that they came from alien aircraft. Today it seems clear that a definitive explanation for the Colares sightings will not come from the Brazilian government. Officially, the Air Force states that, regarding Operation Saucer, a report was produced with diverse depositions, apparently without any scientific foundation. For the time being, new information may come from the work of independent researchers and ufologists. Physician Daniel Rabiso has studied the Colares sightings since 1985. He began his research by trying to discover other possible causes for the burn marks found on victims.
There was a suspicion that it could have been an animal, maybe a bat. This theory was discarded because when vampire bats bite, they leave marks in the shape of an O. It is a bite and it bleeds a lot. There was no bleeding in this case.
Rabiso also considered the theory that the sightings on Colares could be attributed to mass hallucination.
It was thought that it could have been mass panic, self-mutilation, that people were scratching themselves, hurting themselves. This also wasn't what happened.
Rabiso's research suggested that the wounds were not self-inflicted.
What it seems is that there was very intense radiation that paralyzed the nervous system, and the light must have extracted something.
Rabiso also looked into possible sources for lights that were seen on the island. At the time of the sightings, the Brazilian government was fighting communist guerrillas in the state of Para, in which Colares is located.
There was the suspicion that it might be a weapon, some clandestine maneuvers of guerrillas using devices to frighten off the population in order to bring in weapons, munitions, and war supplies to Para.
Despite reports of guerrilla activity, the government will neither confirm nor deny the information. Reporter Carlos Mendez, who covered the events on Colares, has no explanation for the strange lights the islanders described. But he believes that the remoteness of Colares and the superstitions of its inhabitants may have played a role in keeping the stories about UFO sightings alive.
The people were shocked, frightened. The people of Colares have always lived with legends, with folklore from the countryside. This is typical of the Amazon.
Today, the mystery remains. What was flying in the skies above Colares? And why did people think they had been attacked by beams of light?
Eles estavam retirando, provavelmente, material biológico, provavelmente sangue mesmo.
I believe that they were extracting biological material, probably blood, so that they could create vaccines and develop some protection for their own bodies, for their own civilization. So that when the day arrived of final contact with mankind, they would no longer be susceptible to the illnesses and diseases that we humans present.
Que nós humanos apresentamos.
As for Captain Holanda, the head of Operation Saucer, ufologists Marco Petit and A.J. Gevaerd are convinced that he came forward out of a sense of duty.
O Coronel Holanda, ele estava convencido que ele não.
Holanda was convinced that he couldn't die without telling the story. It was fundamental that we hear from the main protagonist in the story who had commanded the entire investigation. He simply said that tomorrow he could be dead. He could be dead and the truth would die with him. And evidently, he didn't want that to happen.
He left us a very important message with us. We are being visited.
In this documentary, you will see miraculous UFO footage that has been authenticated by top UFO.
The documentary featured an extensive summary of the footage, the canisters containing the footage, an expert analysis from the likes of Stanton Friedman. One film expert noted in the documentary that the footage came in an old Soviet canister that had information labeled on it that was consistent with info written directly on the film reel. The numbers on the film's header matched the canisters they came. The header of the film had the crest of the KGB on it, and the term for top secret is shown in the first few seconds of this footage and image to the right. Having real-looking alien footage is one thing, but including the original film real canisters means you are extremely close to proving 100% authenticity. This is something that has traditionally lacked in other more popular alien videos such as the widely known Alien Autopsy or the Alien Interview videos. Several KGB documents. In the documentary, several KGB documents are produced to prove the film is authentic, along with credible testimony from a former Soviet KGB operative who claims to know about the event. At first everyone believed that those debris were part of some novelty aircraft manufactured in the United States or England, said Pavel Klimchenkov, a former KGB operative, but having done some measurements material analysis, we came to the conclusion that none of the domestic or foreign manufacturers known to us could have produced this apparatus, at least not in the conditions existing on this planet. Along with Pavel's testimony, authentic KGB top-secret documents were obtained by the filmmakers, allegedly costing them $10,000. The documents described in detail a crash site recovery operation of a disc-shaped object and organic remains. Based on the credible testimony, KGB documents, expert film analysis and the general good feeling one gets when watching this interesting crash site video, it is safe to assume that this film indeed may be authentic. What about the autopsy? This footage will be posted in our second part article along with thoughts and analysis. Actors, training exercises, skepticism. Some have put forth the argument that an American production crew filmed the footage in March 1998. These claims are put forth on websites claiming to know the truth about this footage. To date they have failed to show even one current photo of any of the soldiers in the film, nor any statements from the actors that they were indeed only actors in this film. This should be easy to obtain if the footage was recently filmed. Some have put forth the argument that an American production crew filmed the footage in March 1998. These claims are put forth on websites claiming to know the truth about this footage. To date they have failed to show even one current photo of any of the soldiers in the film, nor any statements from the actors that they were indeed only actors in this film. This should be easy to obtain if the footage was recently filmed. Another theory suggests the film was a training exercise. Yet no one has produced witnesses verifying this claim. One skeptical viewpoint suggests that the object's thickness is far too small to support any would-be alien pilot. The craft's outer edge as seen on the image is only 12 to 36 inches. However, it is not necessarily indicative of the overall thickness of the craft. The image was taken from the only part in the video sequence where the craft's edge is visible, and since the camera never goes behind, there is no way to tell how much depth the craft may have on the other side. Additionally, if you consider the side facing us may actually be the bottom, we can easily see that this craft can easily fit the traditional flying saucer shape as demonstrated by the below images. In this documentary they claim that, since they only were able to acquire 4 canisters of film, more film footage of this incident is available, such as the entire digging, cleanup, and inside the craft investigation. To this date, almost a decade after it went public, no other videos have surfaced. A UFO crash site allegedly filmed by the Russian KGB in March of 1969 in the Sverdlovsk region of Russia. The footage was later obtained by documentary filmmakers who then published the movie, The Secret KGB UFO Files. A film expert noted in the documentary that the film came in an old Soviet film can and the numbers on the film's header match the cans they came in. The header of the film has the crest of the KGB on it and the term for top secret. An autopsy of the alleged pilot of the UFO is seen in the documentary film. Soviet doctors examined the burnt torso of the entity and it is revealed that the 3 doctors died 1 week later, all from cerebral hemorrhages. Death certificates are presented as proof. Several KGB documents are produced to prove the film is authentic. Some have put forth the argument that an American production crew filmed the footage in March 1998. These claims are put forth on websites claiming to know the truth about this footage. To date they have failed to show even one current photo of any of the soldiers in the film, nor any statements from the actors that they were indeed only actors in this film. This should be easy to obtain if the footage was recently filmed. Another theory suggests the film was a training exercise. Yet no one has produced witnesses verifying this claim. UFO aliens may have helped build pyramids of Giza, says Cairo University archaeologist. Head of the Cairo University Archaeology Department, Dr. Ayla Shaheen, in December 2010 had told an audience that there might be truth to the theory that aliens helped the ancient Egyptians build the oldest of pyramids, the pyramids of Giza. On being further questioned by Mr. Marek Nowak, a delegate from Poland, as to whether the pyramid might still contain alien technology or even a UFO with its structure, Dr. Shaheen was vague and replied, "I cannot confirm or deny this, but there is something inside the pyramid that is not of this world." Delegates to the conference on ancient Egyptian architecture were left shocked. However, Dr. Shaheen had refused to comment further or elaborate on his UFO and alien-related statements. Down below is 90's The Secret KGB UFO Files documentary, that deals with the fact that Russian had already discovered the tomb of alien humanoid in Egypt and something is beneath the pyramid. The Secret KGB UFO Files documentary interestingly supporting the head of the Cairo University Archaeology Department, Dr. Ayla Shaheen, claim as well. Actually, ancient Egyptian writings very often talk of beings from the sky opening and bright lights coming down to teach them technology and give them wisdom. Many pictures and symbols resemble UFOs and aliens. Possibly aliens built the Great Pyramid. And these solid long-lasting construction techniques were adopted by the Egyptians. Ancient Egyptian legends tell of Tep-Zepi, or the first time. This is described as an age when sky gods came down to earth and raised the land from mud and water. They supposedly flew through the air in flying boats and brought laws and wisdom to man through a royal line of pharaohs. And of course, this was all thrown out the window when Christianity came along. Keep in mind that the gods were the one and only religion that there was. No other conflicting beliefs? Why? Well, because it was fact, not faith. The modern church would have you believe that it's just a myth. But you have to ask yourself, on the edge of Occam razor, what truly indeed is more likely? There has always been the question. How did the Egyptians feed and care for the 100,000 slaves that it would have taken to build the ancient structures like that of the pyramids in Egypt? 1 minute it is a very backwards country and almost overnight a highly advanced and technological culture sprung into existence. We now have the answer to that very question and evidence that the Egyptians had help, extraterrestrial help at that, thanks to Russia, the KGB, and a top-secret project called Project ISIS. Astrophysicist, neurologist and science advisor in Advanced Propulsion System gained access to the files of Project ISIS. This was a top-secret project brought about by KGB concerning the discovery of the tomb of the visitor in 1961. Up until Sci-Fi purchased this exclusive footage from an agent of the Russian mafia, it had never been seen outside the top-secret facilities of the KGB. Sci-Fi showed it one time on television, and as it stands today, no evidence of this film or the project is available. Except what we have copies of here given to us by a client that had taped the original show. This video is a powerful documentary with actual footage filmed by the KGB and verified by specialists in the field. Authentic film footage. If we can somehow bring attention back on Project ISIS and prove it out, it will change the history of the beginning of the civilization of man. During the Cold War, Nikita Khrushchev was determined to show the world that communism was superior over the democracy. As he realized that it would be too costly to compete with the US in the space race, Khrushchev chose to go the other route. Having over 300,000 agents in the secret police and espionage organizations, he focused most of this resource on alternative science, such as paranormal phenomena, psychotrometic weapons, biogenerators and mind-altering machines. 1920s, during the Stalinist regime, a dark room was created where the KGB conducted psychotronic weapons research on prisoners sentenced to die and political dissidents. After 1936, these files were transferred to the secret archives of the KGB, continuing on with their paranormal research. Khrushchev achieved great success with his biogenerators and machines to alter human minds, which worried, naturally, the United States, knowing that the Soviet Union was there to conquer and overthrow. Russia, being that its borders surrounded the largest landmass of the world, had the largest amount of UFO sightings. If they could capture one of these flying objects and reverse engineer it, they could have the greatest advanced aeronautical designs. They got lucky in January 1986 when a spacecraft crashed in Dalgorsk but remained intact. The craft was back-engineered and the process was quite successful. But to achieve the most superior advancement in global domination, they went in search for something that was only a rumor or legend. The Chamber of Knowledge in Egypt. If the legends were true, storehouse of knowledge left behind by ancient visitors from outer space was concealed in the Great Pyramid. A team of archaeologists were composed of Egyptologists from the Russian-Soviet Academy of Science, was sent to Egypt. The fearing that the CIA would learn of this expedition, the Kremlin operated with complete secrecy. By the late 1950s, Egypt accounted for 43% of all the Soviet aid for Third World nations. When they started the ISIS project, the Soviet military personnel in Egypt was estimated over 20,000. The heavy military presence was used to disguise the efforts of the mission scientists headquartered in Cairo. They would operate under the guise of Arab peasants or Russian officers. To speed things up, in 1959 the KGB recruited professional informationalists to wiretap Egyptian officials. This paid off in July 24, 1960, when a conversation was recorded that would then change myth into reality. The official had been given a call that two Bedouin had stumbled upon the tomb of the visitor. The Bedouin were in the hospital and kept repeating, "The visitor God." At this moment in time, Project ISIS became top priority and all efforts were made to immediately follow up by having the Bedouin show them where they had found this tomb. SEIFI was able to purchase several documents and film footage as to the KGB documentations of their findings. Taken out of Egypt and brought to the secret facility of the KGB was this memo to high-ranking KGB official. My agents had secured the notes of one of the scientists working on the tomb of the visitor findings. Another was the inventory of contents taken from the tomb as follows. Location of finding. Undisclosed, 15 crates of relics, 1 partially mummified body, 1 stone sarcophagus, 8 hieroglyphic samples. Old report from a project scientist that was one of the first to enter the tomb. During the inspection of the wall segment, we noted that a strange magnet-repulsive force seemed to be emanating from the rock. We were unable to find any scientific explanation. Cryptologist report. Partial decoded message on tomb wall indicating a prophecy of the return of the winged gods. The Kremlin took the cryptologist report very seriously. KGB was ordered to determine target locations: planets, stars, galaxies. They had to duplicate the stars as they would have been over Giza thousands of years ago. They finally found it, in the stars and constellation of Orion during the year 10,500 BC. Although it was possible that the builders could have been working off plans of a time before the pyramids was constructed, this was proven not to be the case. Metal and synthetic materials of tomb were determined to be of unknown origin, and the tomb was carbon dated, giving it a dating of 10,500 BC, meaning the pyramid had to have been made at 10,500 BC. Skins of film were purchased by SEIFI through the Russian mafia agent, which originally came from the maximum security archives of the KGB. These skins contain film of KGB filming the process of the tomb and sarcophagus being opened. Sci-Fi had this film analyzed before purchasing by experts in this field. Finding no evidence of fraud, SEIFI purchased skins of film. The documentary is in black and white, showing soldiers entering the tomb without gas masks. As they opened the sarcophagus, you can see toxic fumes escaping and the reaction of the soldiers as they were being affected. It also shows the mummy contained inside. The film shows the soldiers leaving the tomb fast, and then a chemical warfare specialist team comes in with protective clothing. There is talk from one that was there in the tomb, that the energy inside, during the first days of exploration, was very high. They also had a team of psychics go in and do some special readings of the tomb. It later goes on to show the KGB and Bedouin loading trucks with crates to be shipped back to Russia. According to KGB documents, researchers began to wonder if the pyramid was designed for one particular purpose. They thought it was possibly a machine, being that it was designed like a three-dimensional triangular depiction of a hemisphere. Their thoughts were there must have been a reason why it was designed for resonating with the planet. Their thoughts went to a prism and that the pyramids have powers to alter the cosmic rays, that the pyramids are huge prisms capable of concentrating energy, capturing light from the stars which would initiate a process which would turn the pyramid into an interstellar transmitter. The three pyramids and SPHNIX could be integral parts of an immense machine designed by alien engineers linked by a master control mechanism inside the Great Pyramids. They noted that the passageway goes to main chamber, and above the sarcophagus was a tunnelled star shaft. They reasoned that when a specific star alignment occurs, a streak of energy goes down the shaft. Scientists speculated that the radiant energy hitting the sarcophagus could initiate something similar to a cold fusion reaction. The prism structure of the pyramid would then magnify and transfer to the corresponding pyramids. A united beam of energy could erupt, creating a cosmic beacon used by alien starship for future navigation. According to ancient legends all around the world, they all have the same thing in common. The visitors were like men but more like gods. They were giants. They traveled among the stars. They brought us the knowledge. Legends of the first emperors of China were called the Sons of Heaven and made the first pyramids of China. Mexico and Yucatan have similar legends. Starwalkers can be found throughout Egyptian texts and American folklore. The visitors are described as the giants, man/gods, giants or titans. And it seems all cultures may be traced to a single parent civilization. Could it be ET? Later on in the documentary, it shows them working on the mummy, attempting to give it a face and identity. A computer projection of the mummy was made as it laid in the sarcophagus. Experts that were there to observe the fluorescent reconstruction of the face described to Sci-Fi that if they had not been there themselves, they would not have believed what the face revealed after reconstruction. When skull and face was completed, it showed a humanoid type: large cranium, large eyes, small chin, small teeth, but not Earth humanoid but some being that had to have been extraterrestrial. Later, using underground radar technology, the KBG found a passageway under the tomb of the visitor. Directly below was a large chamber. They believed they found the chamber of knowledge, but was afraid to open the tomb, thinking it could be a Trojan horse, capable of blowing up the entire planet. They decided to seal the tomb, wipe away the location of the tomb and close the project. It seemed, however, that all were affected by the discovery. Some had personality changes. Some disappeared entirely, others committed suicide, and others no longer could support their old religious beliefs. The first official report of sightings, that we are aware of, was by King Tutkremeni about 3,400 years ago. Sightings continued through the ages. Sightings seemed to pick up with man mastered the skies. But when we conquered the inner workings of the atom, the aliens of Orion stepped up their observation with an explosion of UFO sightings that continue up to the present. UFO abduction reports began to sweep around the world in the early 60s. A pattern was developing, with nearly all abductees reporting physical examinations, insertion of objects and artificial inseminations. Many women abductees believed they were being impregnated to give birth to alien hybrids. In the last decade, reports such as these have risen dramatically. It may be highly likely that the genetic colonization program that started back in the ancient times has resumed. The question was asked, could they be cloning themselves by implanting their alien genes into human DNA? Are humans being transformed into an alien species through genetic engineering? The ancient Egyptians have always said that our DNA came from the heavens and that someday they would return. Did the KGB discover the truth in the Chamber of Knowledge about the true agenda of the ET? And what was discovered on the wall of the tomb of the visitor prophesies that they would return. But when? Secrets cannot be contained. Not even KGB secrets. A group of scientists, computer programs, doctors, etc., shortly after the discovery of the tomb of the visitor, came together to discuss the possibilities of this discovery. They fully believed that the visitor was none other than Osiris, the alien king. Thus they gave themselves the name, the Followers, based off the followers of Horus in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. According to Egyptian beliefs, a family of gods came from the stars to Egypt. They were the ones that gave the people of Egypt the knowledge and wisdom. Later they left Earth back to their star homes, except for Osiris. He stayed and taught the followers. It was their duty to protect and keep the ancient knowledge he gave them until his return. The Egyptians were astronomers and fully understood that the stars were the map to the great god Osiris and the afterlife. Followers would secretly come together in their homes to discuss the possibility of the return of Osiris. They believed that the second coming of Osiris would herald a new age for mankind. They believed that when the tomb was discovered and the seal was broken, a signal was transmitted to the visitors. They calculated and estimated the time it would take for the electromagnetic signal to reach the constellation of Orion. They figured that they could return no earlier than April 23, 1985. With that time frame in mind, the group left Russia and took off to Egypt, never to return. The only remains left behind of their meeting with the visitors was a newspaper clippage found in the KGB archives of a group of tourists disappearing in the middle of the night in Egypt, 1985. And one home movie project with film. This film showed the group in front of the pyramid at night. It shows a light appearing in the sky, the group dropping to their knees in prayer, the light becoming brighter and then nothingness. A daughter of parents that were part of this group was shown the home video by the SCIFI team, of which she recognized her parents and burst into tears.
Did anyone happen to see a documentary on sci-fi called Secret KGB UFO Files? I happened to catch this yesterday, and while I'm leaning to the side of skepticism, I have to admit that it was intriguing. Basically, the story goes, in the early 60s the KGB discovered a tomb at the Geyser Plateau containing an EBA. Luckily there was film footage, haha. The grainy film contained footage of archaeologists dressed in KGB gear opening the tomb of what was thought to be an ancient Egyptian king. When they do, toxic smoke overcomes one of them and the other two run out. It is later learned that the body isn't human. The footage looked as if it had been produced to look old. Also included were shots of psychics levitating in the tomb. One thing that caught my attention is the archaeologist that was supposed to have been claimed by the toxic smoke was later helping move crates of evidence down some stairs. Despite the curious film footage, the documentary was very interesting and had me glued from the jump. For decades, American agencies have stockpiled information on UFOs. So did their counterparts behind the Iron Curtain. Soldiers, scientists and spies all paint a disturbing picture of the KGB's secret campaign. Is this the stunning proof that the Soviets recovered something not from this earth? When US researchers began looking into just how much the Soviet government knew about UFOs and extraterrestrial visitation, they were not surprised to learn that the Russians took the subject very seriously. What they didn't expect was evidence of ancient alien visitation, paranormal properties associated with related artifacts, and most shocking of all, of a mass abduction in 1985, among the piles of materials obtained from former Soviet spies. Some extremely puzzling and disturbing documents and film footage surfaced confirming rumors, which had been circulating for decades. In the late 1950s and 60s, the Russians became very interested in a number of unusual and newly discovered archaeological sites in Egypt by interpreting ancient symbols. One of those sites was believed to contain the remains of a life form not from Earth. Startling top-secret film footage, never before seen outside the Kremlin, confirms the Soviet mission to recover and analyze these remains. Join host Roger Moore in an exclusive investigation into one of the most compelling events of our time.